Well, hello and welcome, awesome students, to yet another week, right? Week 7, and we are powering through this class. We certainly are almost at the finish line, but week 7, as you're probably familiar with a lot of classes, is a critical week as we are typically doing our large projects this week. And just like some of your other classes, it will be no change here. We'll be doing project 2 this week, and I'll talk about that here in just a moment. But I want to stress to you the importance of doing a nice job on this project, but also make sure that you've taken in the feedback over the last few weeks. The milestone submission that we had in week 5 directly addressed some of the things that we'll be talking about or be addressing or working toward in the project 2 completion. And so again, make sure you're reading your feedback. Hopefully, if you've been paying attention along the way, you've watched these videos, you've done a nice job in terms of your reading, you're going to find that the project, albeit challenging, of course, is certainly going to be, you're going to be well prepared to take this on. So I'm not saying, if some folks missed a couple of things along the way, they won't do well this week. Just make sure that you incorporate some of the thoughts and ideas that you've shared in the past, as well as some of the feedback you've received to make some improvements on your performance. That will be fantastic. Now, along those lines, I did want to talk a little bit about research, and I'm going to be sending out another video here tomorrow, probably, or Wednesday. Look for that in terms of just primary and secondary research, finding some of those sources in the library and just working toward improving that performance, because if you're utilizing a higher quality of research, you'll have better thoughts, richer ideas. And what I found from my personal experience as a student, when I was learning how to find my professional voice and learning how to format things appropriately using the research, reading those articles over and over again from journals written in APA format was like a model, was like a way for me to learn the process. And so the more that you read this stuff, read the quality journal articles, read the things that are formatted in APA style, you're going to find that it's actually becoming easier and easier for you to do some of these things and incorporate the research. And so look for that video as they'll come out here in the next day or two. I just want to put some things together for that. So let's talk about the readings for this week. Actually, let me start here as we're going to talk about advocacy this week, and then we might as well dive into the readings. The readings this week will specifically address issues related to advocacy or things that you might have to advocate on behalf of. There's a fantastic organization out there called NAMI, the National Association of Mentally Ill. I've spoke at a couple of NAMI meetings in the past. It's something that is like a social support group, educational support group for people that are struggling with mental illness in some capacity or another. And it's a really great organization to support friends and family to help them learn more about some of these things. And so certainly this is a great advocacy group. There are some tools and resources that we have today as a result of people advocating on behalf of their use. And so here's an article about telehealth, for example, that talks about some of these things that were birthed through true advocacy within our profession. So we're going to talk about advocacy on the discussion board this week, and what you're going to do is identify a past issue, something that needed some attention in order for this to become a thing or something we can use. Now, telehealth is by far one of them. Certainly things that we do within substance abuse, something we do within medications or prescribing medications or whatever the case might be. So there's a number of issues here that certainly could take some time and attention and focus on advocacy far beyond the telehealth thing. But spend a little bit of time putting together a nice discussion post just from the materials this week. I'm sure you'll do just fine. If you have a thought or idea, run with it, find an article out there, but don't feel you have to go over and beyond on this, because I want you to spend the bulk of your time this week focusing on the project. And so make sure, again, that you've taken the time to review your feedback, some of the thoughts or ideas that you shared in some of these submissions, and you're going to put together more or less a final paper. So we did in week 5, the week 5 milestone, we started to prepare the first half of this. About the first half. 10 it is. So the first half of it you've already started to create. So you're not reinventing the wheel on all this stuff. You're taking this information, you're making some improvements in there. Did I give you some notes? Go back and spell check. Is there some thoughts or ideas or some things missing? And that's one of the keys to learning how to develop your professional writing voice, your professional writing style, is at some point you're going to realize that you have things that might be missing within your submission. You didn't cover something up above, and now you're down below in the treatment planning and you're like, but I didn't talk about this up above. So make sure that you're retooling things as you go, but you should have a good starting point for the first half of the submission. Then you're going to want to work through the personal barriers, environmental barriers, the psychoeducation, the bias, reconciliation, and so forth. So put together a nice submission. Make sure that you have APA references within your submissions. And again, it's not just about putting a reference in there, gang, and throwing an in-text citation in there, but actually using the information. Read the information, allow that to be the guide of what you're going to write about, and that will help you tremendously to complete the submission. Bias reconciliation. I think you guys will have a good handle on all this. Bias reconciliation is just think about the methodology that you would use to resolve or overcome any personal bias you might have. But I, again, want you to stem or think about how this comes about through the research. Okay, so if you're reading up on bias that you might have or challenges you might have related to bias, this is certainly going to be information. It'll be fairly easy for you. But again, utilize the research to support your arguments and you'll do just fine. So with that, make sure you are on it this week, gang. Don't put this stuff off until the very last minute. Don't wait until Sunday at 5 o'clock before you open things up and get things going to work on this project. You hopefully will be working on it throughout the week. Strongly encourage students, as always, get things turned in at least one day in advance of deadlines. Anybody ever notice that little problems and issues, your power went out, internet blew up, your modem stopped, whatever seems to happen 10 minutes before a deadline? Don't wait until a deadline. Get things done at least a day in advance of deadlines. Give yourself a little window of cushion to get done. But I would encourage you, as always, to get it done by Friday so you can unplug and take your weekend off. So let me know if you need any help or assistance this week. As always, again, look for another video from me this week about research, and I look forward to interacting with you in the discussion board, and I'm looking forward to reading your submissions. Have a great week.